Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Today we're here to talk about The Man in High Castle, Season 1. Everybody, if you want to introduce yourselves, I'm Adam.
I'm Eric. I am one of the compadres on this here review channel.
I'm Turd Ferguson, and I picked this show.
That's Jay, and I'm Aaron. Good morning, everyone.
Morning edition of the show. Let's talk Nazis.
Let's talk Nazis.
I love the smell of fascism in the morning.
This is a show that's based in an alternate universe, right? Kind of like, I don't know if anyone has seen Fringe.
I have seen Fringe, but it got so weird that I was just like, nah.
Okay, fair enough.
What alternate universe are we in, Adam?
Well, yeah, Adam, give us a quick rundown. What is the show about?
We are in the alternate universe where the Nazis have won World War II.
The Axis.
The Axis powers, rather, yes. And they have split the United States with Japan right across the Rocky Mountains as a borderline. Japan getting the West Coast and the Nazis getting the East Coast and Central America. It's really looking like dire straits for America in this show.
They're subjugated. They're
Yeah. They're under the enemy control, and there is a resistance, albeit they are pretty weak.
Yeah, they suck.
They suck. They don't really stand much of a chance at all.
They're worried about fan fiction films.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's the main point of the resistance that I've seen so far in the first season.
These films are an interesting plot point, in my opinion, because this is supposed to be based in the 60s, where no one really has access to Photoshop. You can't alter films. You can't create video.
That's not necessarily true-ish. If you go back, there's pictures of Stalin where he had them edit out people that he had murdered, so they were no longer in historic photos. Mm-hmm. So at least they had the ability to remove people from pictures.
These videos are suspect, to say the least.
They're suspect, for sure.
It's basically our reality. The films that are propaganda films that display our reality, where the Allies won.
Yes. And no one knows how these films came into existence. So there's a great mystery to say.
There's this guy called the Man in High Castle, and he wants the films.
Who I'm beginning to believe is actually Hitler, because literally the only man in the High Castle ever shown in the show.
A man in a High Castle?
Yeah, he wants the films, right? So, I don't know.
Let's give a little bit more
backstory.
Set and setting, just because I want to talk about how poorly these set pieces perform.
So the story actually follows a couple main characters. You have somebody from the East Coast who is an undercover agent infiltrating the Resistance, and his mission is to meet up with an agent of the Resistance coming from the West Coast, and they plan to meet in the neutral zone.
And this is Joe.
It also follows a woman.
Oben Gruber Schmidt.
Yep. He is the man from the East Coast. Joe is under the control of Oben Gruppenheimer Smith.
Obergruppenführer John Smith.
Obergruppenführer. Who plays him again? Because absolutely fantastic.
He is a very good actor, yeah.
Rupert Evans? Is that his name?
Eric, you have the TV open.
He's the guy from, he was the villain from...
No, that's Frank. That's Rupert Evans.
My bad.
We had...
Rufus Sewell.
There we go. Rufus Jingleheimer Schmidt.
Rufus Sewell, yep.
Hold on one second.
I wonder if he's the heiress of the Sewell fortune.
Wait, what are we saying? You said West and East, so the East guy was the Nazi John Blake.
Joe Blake was from the East Coast.
Yeah,
he was a Nazi,
and he was meeting who on the West?
He was supposed to meet the sister of what's her name,
Trudy. Yeah, and Trudy. She was coming from the West Coast. Now, Trudy has fallen into interesting circumstance because she wasn't supposed to have anything to do with resistance, but her sister, who's always kind of been a wild child.
No, you got it backwards. Juliana is the
yep.
Trudy is the one that has gotten tied up with the resistance. She passes one of these films to Juliana, then goes and gets shot in the street. Juliana then decides to take her place and act like she's Trudy, and goes to the neutral zone. At the same time, John's going to the neutral zone as an undercover Nazi.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as a Nazi undercover, as a resistance agent.
Yes.
And everyone that was at John's place got shot. Everyone died.
Yeah, there's a lot of death in this.
So then the rest of
really doesn't care.
A good majority of their story takes place in the neutral zone, and then you kind of see the political aspect of what's going on in the Greater Nazi Reich, which is the East Coast, and was it the Japanese Pacific states?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think so. That are ruled by the Kempeitai, which is essentially the military
police.
Military police. Except their jurisdiction is not limited to the military. So they'll just go and kidnap people. Think like KGB. Just kidnap people, say, hey, we want to know this, so we're going to torture you till we find out. And not a pleasant situation for anybody in America in this show. Even the neutral zone, it's think like Wild West, where it's just
you can't
can't trust anybody. Anything can happen. So,
well, this show gets kicked off in the neutral zone, and in my opinion, I think that's the worst part of the show. Because for me, it really felt like after Juliana returned to San Francisco and Joe went back to New York, that's when the show really started for me. But you had to have them meet to get it going. Mm-hmm. So it almost felt like those first couple of episodes in Cannon City, it's almost like, all right, let's all get through this, and then we can get to the actual plot.
Agreed. It felt a little bit circular at times in the neutral zone, like when they were getting chased by the marshal.
Yeah.
And I don't know, they had made it away, but then they had decided to go back into town, and I was questioning that decision.
Yeah.
I understand that they had to fake the death and all, but it was just like, you made it out. Like, you have escaped.
Joe's not very smart. Can I just say that? Like, for being a undercover agent, he's not very smart. I felt like him, like, being like, don't touch this girl. Like, I need her. I'm trying to work her. That wasn't a very good move with the marshal. And then, like, whenever he, like, got caught looking at the blank papers in, you know,
in Smith's house,
Obergruppenführer Smith's house, that was just, I felt like a trap, like a long setup trap. He saw what happened with Rupert or whatever. What was the guy's name? His best friend from a long time ago.
Ooh,
the one that was working with the Japanese.
Hang on.
Wasn't it like Rupert?
Wait, are you talking about Frank's friend?
Frank Frink?
No.
He's the actor Rupert Evans.
No.
No, you're talking about the other Nazi that was undercover.
No, the Nazi that was working with the Japanese. That was trying to get
the older guy.
Yeah.
Who at the end, like, almost
like Ryder. Was
Eric Ryder? No, that's not Ryder.
No, it was Rudolph. Rudolph
Wagner.
Wagner, yeah.
Rudolph Wagner. So he saw what happened with him, where Smith caught him in the lie and knew the whole time. That was so much foreshadowing. Why didn't you be like, well, you know what? Honestly, you probably already know this then. I lied about this. Because that showing him everything, seeing the files, all that was a setup.
Yeah.
It's not very important. That's all I'm
saying. The question is, why was he trying to set him up with Grasshopper? Because if you remember in the Kempeitai building, there was a folder in the secret room, the Lotus Flower room,
Yeah.
that had Grasshopper on it as well. But it's never gone into, and the only time we see a paper on it is blank from the Nazi headquarters. So, what is that?
That's just the name of the film.
Grasshopper?
Yeah, it was something Grasshopper.
Yeah, it kept popping up.
I will say, though, the story with Smith's son being genetically defective and him having to come face to face with the Nazi eugenics laws as a high-level, Nazi. I haven't seen season 2. I haven't watched into it, but that was pretty rough. And you definitely saw him having to evaluate his Nazi values,
Yeah, I thought there was a great scene in that episode that we've been talking about during the VA Day party at Smith's house, where Smith and Wegener are talking, and they make reference to what sounds like the American Holocaust, where they're talking about, we had to do horrible things together, but they were necessary for the Reich. Like, that definitely played into the storyline about his kid, where now he has a personal conflict between what he believes in and harm to his actual family.
Mm-hmm. It's the rubber meeting the road.
Very much so. And I'll admit, I did watch season 2, and I'm going to do my best not to pull an Aaron and say that was my favorite episode. But that storyline about the kid, that continues, and it gets very interesting.
Oh, wow.
But Rudolf Wagner dies, right?
Yeah.
Right. Wagner dies in the last episode of season 1.
Yeah, kills himself.
In Hitler's office.
Which, I don't understand that.
I don't understand that
his family from
It was an
dying
honor
to
thing.
Hitler?
Yeah, it was an honor thing.
I think he was scared.
No, I think he was scared. He had broken him. Hitler was sitting there manipulating his
Also,
decisions.
Keep in mind that he was probably part of Hitler Youth.
He was probably what?
Probably part of Hitler Youth.
Wagner?
Yeah.
He's probably too old. Like, he was probably an adult by the
No.
time the Nazis came around.
No, it was, like 60s, 70s during this time?
It was like,
Well,
this is like 1962,
old,
and he looks
though.
like he's in his like 50s.
Yeah, he would have been like his 30s.
Smith had way more dedication, I think, obviously. Well, I mean, I don't completely understand why, but when Wegener had the chance, I don't know why he didn't just, like, blow his brains out.
Well, because didn't Hitler know what he was doing when he walked in the room?
Yeah, he said, Smith said you would come or something like that.
Right.
See, that's what I don't understand. I don't understand this, how many resistances are going.
Well, the plot with Wegener, that's separate from the American resistance.
And that's separate from the films altogether. He just had his own personal conflict. He was like, this has to end. And then he didn't end it. He got all the way to where he wanted and then didn't do the thing he wanted to do.
Well, he was part of the plot by Heydrich, who was like the scary German guy in the gray uniform that shows up near the end. He was part of his conspiracy. And I actually didn't know this before watching this show, but Heydrich he was a real person. Like, Heydrich was an actual person who was a Nazi under Hitler. Heydrich was actually the chief architect of the Holocaust.
Okay.
So, like, bad dude. So Wegener,
like, our ideals are under threat.
Right.
I don't know which specifics.
Right, because everybody is anticipating that Hitler's going to die because he's old and he's sick, and all the Nazis under him are jockeying for position to take over once Hitler dies. So Wegener was part of Heydrich's plot to kill Hitler and then have Heydrich take over. And I think the reason why Wegener didn't kill Hitler is that Hitler calls him on it to begin with. So I think Wegener thinks this whole thing is blown. I'm basically I'm counting on a whole conspiracy behind me to take power after I kill him, and this plot has been totally foiled.
Well, no, because if you remember, he didn't even want to kill Hitler, but Heydrich was threatening his family, and he's like, well, if I don't do this, my whole family dies. So I've already been exposed. It's better to go ahead and do this. And then he got exposed by Hitler, and he's like, well, if I kill him, my whole family dies. So I think you're right. It was exposed, but the whole reason he started to do it.
Yeah, his faith in the plot diminished once he had that conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
That sucks. So that's all the more reason just to pull the trigger. Just go. Don't even think about it. Don't let them talk. Just go.
Mm-hmm. But real quick, I want to go back to something Adam said a minute ago, where you were questioning about who is the man in the high castle. Mm-hmm. And I think you make a really interesting point where how great of a plot twist would it be if it turned out that the American resistance was just funneling this information ultimately to Hitler, whether they knew that or not. I think that'd be a pretty interesting plot twist.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, I agree. All y'all are trying to capture these tapes and then get them to who?
We never met him. You're not allowed to meet him. Sure, it's for security reasons, but you have no idea who it is. And so far, Hitler's the only guy, the man in the high castle.
Watching a bunch of tapes.
Like he has tapes, right?
Yeah, he had a bunch of tapes.
Oh.
That was really weird. But season 2 does look interesting. Apparently, season 4 premiere is supposed to come out in 2019. So there's already a season 3 out.
Dang.
Didn't know that. I thought it only had 2 seasons out. It was a little depressing for a show, but it had an intriguing story. I will say that. It was very political. During any time that Juliana Crane and Joe Blake weren't on the screen, it was all about the politics between Nazis and Japan. And that was interesting for sure, especially like the delicate balance they had developed, leading up to a war. But that being said,
it was the Japanese knowing that their time was like marked.
Well, they didn't have to
be able to stand up against. Yeah, they weren't going to be able to stand up against the Germans if they decided to turn on them.
Yeah, because they didn't have the technology. Which, why was I keep forgetting his name, but the guy who almost killed Hitler,
Wegener.
Why was Wegener so hesitant to give anybody else the plans for the technology? Because it could have solved the situation. Remember, he put it in like a microfilm, and he was like, "No, I'm not going to give this to anybody else. I'm going to do it."
He swallowed it. He swallowed it at one point and pooped it out.
He swallowed it, but just before that, he had an option of giving it to one of the best character in the show, in my opinion, and he chose not to. He just I'm going to eat this. And
what was it? I don't. I remember this, but I don't remember the plot point.
It was plans for how to make an atomic bomb.
Well, not just an atomic bomb, like airplanes, like everything that would catch them up, right? Everything that would give them a shot in a war. And, he wouldn't give it to anybody else.
Other than who?
He didn't want to give it to the trade minister, Tagomi.
Yes, Tagomi. Tagomi was the best character in the show, in my opinion.
Love Tagomi. Tagomi was great.
Kido was also pretty good. Inspector Kido.
Yeah.
I like the honor. I love the Japanese culture. I mean, whenever Kido came into what was his name, Adam? The trade minister? Tagomi. Whenever he came in there, he was like, there comes a time in every man's life where he must bear the weight of his own responsibility. I was like, oh my God.
He's committing suicide.
Well, to avoid a war, right? Like that's respectable. That's definitely like a Kobayashi Maru type situation. Unwinnable. Unless Wagner had gotten the plans to the guy sooner. No.
Well, I wonder if Wegener was afraid that if he gave the plans to the wrong person, that rather than use those plans against the Nazis, they would turn him into the Nazis as a spy.
No, I think it was more of a pride issue. It's like, I want to be the man to go down in history who, stopped the war from happening. It's like, I want my name to be there. No one else can have that spot.
It's got to be the right person. He overthought it or something.
No, I think he was trying to protect Tagomi because they were friends. And he thought that if Tagomi got caught with it, then the Nazis would kill him.
Oh, there was no reason for Tagomi to get caught with it because no one would expect him to have it. Right? Like, it was very suspicious for him to have stayed so long, not on a mission, in the Japanese Pacific States. And then he finally got spotted because he tried to do something stupid and ended up swallowing the microfilm after getting spotted. Like, it didn't make much sense. From the first meeting he had the microfilm, he could have gave it to Tagomi. But anyways, this is...
Can we talk about the very end when Tagomi wakes up in America? And
well, he was always in America. I forgot about
this. And they're playing the twist.
I forgot about this. Yeah, how did he get there again?
He meditated so hard. He meditated so hard that reality came.
But he had never seen the film, right? So he didn't even have a reason for that to be in his imagination.
Is it his imagination or?
No.
Or did he actually meditate into our dimension?
I think he actually meditated into our dimension. Because he had no exposure to the films. He had no reason to believe an alternate universe even existed. And yet all of a sudden now he's here.
Fair point.
With the twist playing. I mean, I thought that was a little bit cheap as a director. Oh, come on, and let's twist. It's like, no, you can't have a twist and play the twist. No, you can't do that.
That was a perfect one. That was a perfect.
You know what? I didn't even catch that. So,
and it was a perfect timeline for the twist to be playing too.
Props to you guys.
I was like, my hands were up. I was just like, no, lame.
Well, do you guys know who wrote the book that this show is based on?
Philip K. Dick, the guy.
Philip K. Dick.
What's it called? The one with Harrison Ford and the robots.
Yeah, his work inspired Minority Report, Blade Runner. He's a sci-fi writer, and so the book that this is based on, it has a lot of differences, but it does share this kind of alternate dimensions thing, where none of it really gets explained, and part of the problem underlying all of this is that Philip K. Dick wrote this book with a cliffhanger, planning to write a sequel, and then he never did.
He went crazy.
When does his book end? After season 1 or season 4?
Pretty much season 1 covers what's in the book, but there's a lot of differences. I think they actually meet the man in the heist castle at the end of the book.
Huh.
And you guys were talking about the grasshopper earlier. They never really explain that in the show, even in what I've seen. But what I read about in the book is that that's actually a reference to a book within the book, where in this alternate reality, there is a book that someone wrote imagining what would happen if the Allies won, and it's a different reality of how the Allies win than how they won in reality. Where it ends up with having a Cold War between America and England rather than America and the Soviets.
Interesting.
So I think, and the book that this alternate the book that they're talking about is called The Grasshopper Lies Heavy. So I think maybe in the show they meant to go towards that, and they just haven't yet or forgotten about it. I don't really know. Fun fact of the day.
You don't want to fall into the Spider-Man 3 rule and have too much shit going on that nothing is interesting.
Yeah, like once you get a book within a book within a book, that's too many levels.
Too many books.
Yeah. Too many books.
Too many coops.
Too many coops.
But did you guys have a favorite moment in the series? Like a scene or something that made you jump up and go, "Yo!"
I had like a heart-rending moment when they killed the sister. I was like, "Oh, holy shit!" I don't know. There's something about heart-rending moments that attach me to shows.
That whole storyline with Frank Fink's sister was really tough.
Yeah.
I think that whenever Frank gets the gun or gets the bullet and like is standing there about to shoot the guy and then he gets shot, like the prince or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's standing there and there's the kid looking at his gun. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Like, he was totally ready to assassinate him in this.
Like, no, guys, I didn't do it. I know I was pointing the gun, but it wasn't me.
I know I had the intent to kill him, and I was like gonna do it, but I didn't do it this time.
I thought about it, but it wasn't me.
Yeah, I don't know why him and his buddy didn't just come full admission whenever the Kempeitai were on him. Like, is this the gun? Yeah.
Because they were looking for a scapegoat.
Yeah.
But they let themselves be the scapegoat.
Yeah, but if they let themselves be the scapegoat, then they die.
And possessing the firearm and the bullets to begin with is a crime. So even if they weren't looking for a scapegoat, you're still going to go to Japanese prison, which I imagine is not very nice.
Why not just tell them that they didn't do it?
Because they want them to do it. If the Nazis did it, which they did, then a war starts. So they're trying to find any reason not to blame it on the Nazis.
Exactly.
So if someone comes forward and it's like, hey, we had a gun, we were in the location, but we didn't do it, they're going to say, you did it, regardless of what actually happened. And that's what they were trying to do. That's why they chased Frank Fink so hard. They knew the ballistics didn't match on the gun. They knew it wasn't the pistol. But they looked after him because they knew it was the Nazis.
Were the Americans that were in America Americans, or were they either Japanese citizens or German citizens? There was no America.
Subjects. They were like second-class citizens.
Yeah, they were Americans because the Japanese, if you remember the store part where Frank bought the bullets, he was like, hey, only Japanese citizens can buy these. And he had to kind of do it under the table because Frank wasn't a Japanese citizen.
Yeah, I think being a citizen of the Japanese Pacific states is different from being Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
So they needed it to be an American that did the murder, not a German.
Yeah, they needed to pin it on the resistance, which would have been the best idea.
Mm-hmm. And that's what they're trying to do with Frank, I think, because they suspected him to have ties with the resistance.
Right, because my biggest moment for me was when not Tagomi, I'm sorry, when Kido, the Kempeitai guy, he finds the Nazi agent who actually shot the prince, and the Nazi's just like, yeah, it was me, I did it, and Kido just blows him away. Like, I was like, what? But it's exactly what we're talking about here. He was doing that to hide the evidence that the Nazis did it.
Oh, yeah.
They were trying to prevent the war.
Because Kido knew, hey, if we get into a war, we're fucked. They got planes. They got bombs. Like, there's no way we can win.
Yeah, early on he says the Nazis are flying around in rockets, and we have nothing close to that.
Right.
We're using ships. The prince says that. Yeah. It's like, hey, we used a boat to come over here. They're using airplanes. Rockets, actually. But, yeah, no.
Rocket Man.
And I think that's why the microfilm was so important. But, you know, fucking Karsten Norgard, you know, being a prideful jackass over there.
But they ultimately got it to him.
They did. But then he got found out.
It doesn't matter if he's found out. They still have the information now.
Yeah,
it's a time game now.
That's true. See, in season 2, do they expand on it any?
Honestly, don't you think that the Japanese probably got China? Like, you know that they just put China to work.
Was China even a part of the Allies or Axis?
They were subjugated by Japan. They were part of the Japanese.
They were fighting on the side. Yeah, they were fighting on the side of the Allies as much as they could, but they had already been subjugated by the Japanese. They had already lost to the Japanese.
They had already lost to the Japanese.
I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah.
That's the whole, like, the Manchurian, like, where they're, like, dropping the clay pots with disease fleas on people. Like, the first, like, bio-warfare that had ever happened.
Yeah, it was bad.
Damn.
That's where they were, like, cutting off people's arms and sewing them onto their legs and stuff like that.
Oh. Is that where the Japanese got their medical book?
Yeah, the medical stuff.
It didn't come from American soldiers?
No, it came from Unit 735 or 795 or something like that. It was a medical testing unit in northern China, and they were just they all the logs or all the data mentions the subjects as logs, as pieces of wood, to try and cover the fact that they were using humans, but they were doing vivisections and shit like that.
Oh wow!
I think it would have been cool if the show included that doctor.
It's multiple doctors, but
wait, did they
just someone from that unit?
Did they allude to that book in the show?
No.
This is just something part of history.
Yeah.
I wonder if this show was produced in sections where maybe we got this first couple episodes as the pilot to test it out, and then later on they got funding for the rest. Because there's some big kind of changes, I feel like, from those first couple episodes then going forward. Like, for example, you were talking about when Keto gasses Frank's family.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's some cold-hearted shit. But then afterwards, for the rest of the season, Keto is presented to us as not necessarily a villain, just somebody who's trying to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of runs
his moral
cruelty.
Well, the right thing for his country.
Yeah, his moral compass isn't where you'd expect it to be, because his sole goal is to do whatever it takes to protect Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And he's willing to go as far as he needs to, even to the point of committing suicide to protect Japan.
I think something that's worth pointing out is that any society that has an honor code, where honor is valued at a high level within the society, such as Japanese, death is usually something that is considered a way of cleansing your honor. And so that's why they don't have a problem with killing people. It's very black and white. This is what is honor. This is what is not. We have to protect the crown prince. We have to protect the nation. They're willing to do whatever they have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no remorse, because it's not about what is good or evil. It's about what is good or bad for the country, for the honor, for the, system.
Absolutely.
So that's why I think that you have that dichotomy between how we would see things in America and how the Japanese see it. We would be like, if we have to be killing our own citizens to make sure that it survives, maybe it shouldn't survive.
Well, their whole plan after any level of the resistance got too rough was to run away. I thought that was a pretty interesting constant for the Americans. Was anytime it got rough, they're like, all right, let's just run away. We'll do this and then we'll run. We'll do this and then we'll run. And it's like, just do it and then deal with the consequences and then keep going.
Well, it's not like you can hold your ground. I mean,
you can't fight against tanks whenever you got rocks.
Yeah. The hit and run tactic is the only way that the resistance could fight anything.
Guerrilla warfare. That's how the Vietnamese were able to fight the Americans. That's how the Americans.
You never seen Red Dawn?
That's how the Americans fight the North Koreans in America in Red Dawn.
It's classic insurgency.
Yeah.
However, the resistance here sucks. What are they doing?
Not
much. They don't know.
They're looking for films.
They don't even know.
They're so disorganized. They're looking for films. Nobody knows anybody. Which
it's like some underground railroad system.
They're information starved, and that's another point as to why Hitler is probably the man in the high castle, is because they're information starved. Nobody knows anybody. You only know one other person in the resistance, maybe 2 or 3.
Sounds like a Nazi tactic to me.
You got cells, right?
Well, I thought another big pivot that they made was the diner owner in Cannon City at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lemuel.
Who's the resistance guy? Yeah, Mule.
Lemuel Washington.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I'm just the diner owner. I have an established cover. But then by the end, it's just like, nope, now I'm the resistance guy in San Francisco. It's like, but wait, I thought you were the diner owner.
Well, he got found out, though. He was.
Yeah,
he was on a list. He was on that list.
He did not trust Joe Black at all, or Joe Blake at all. So,
Joe Blake.
He, especially for his family, he was like, okay, time to fucking leave.
Apparently, Juanita trusted him. Juliana, whatever her name was.
Juanita.
Yeah, mistakenly. Joe Blake was a complete traitor. Sure, he didn't kill her at the end. Okay, give him that. Complete traitor. Complete traitor.
Who, her or him? Both.
No, Blake.
Traitor to the Nazis or traitor to the resistance?
Traitor to the resistance. Well, yeah, both. But even then, complete traitor.
Like, yeah, but, it's both. What side is he on? He's on a boat headed to Mexico. Where's he going?
Fucking Mexico.
Where's he going right now?
He's going to look for Nazi gold.
He's like, I need to go figure my shit out.
Yeah, like I'll see you guys in season 2, episode 4. Like, is that
comes back with the mariachi hat? Hey, amigos.
All right, so do we want to get into our voting?
Okay, sure.
It was good, man. I feel like I have to see the whole thing to really have a great opinion.
Like the whole series.
Yeah,
we didn't see all of Buffy, but we were able to judge that one pretty quickly.
Be honest with season 1. Like, just be honest with what season 1 is.
Then I'll rank this with a heavy Z.
A heavy Z? World War Z? Are you saying you hope everything is taken over?
What's the order? Is it Adam, then Eric, or Eric, then Adam?
Adam, and then me.
Yeah, so I start with my ranking then?
Yeah, give it to us, Adam.
Okay. I like this show. It was a little depressing, you know. There was a lot of politics, which I did enjoy. I'm going to go ahead and rank it with a 7.5.
Oh.
It was enjoyable. It was a little slow at times, which I think they could improve upon. I do agree with Jay. It feels like they kind of designed a season, and then we're like, oh shit, you know, we need to increase this. So they kind of split it up. A little bit of a lost factor there, spreading out a season. But yeah, I think a 7.5 is a good rating for this show. It's worth watching. Check it out.
Is that like a couple startup directors are just working in a coffee shop and they're like, hey, what are we going to do with this $5,000 to make a TV show? And then like a big shot director friend walking in like, hey, man, what are you working on? Hey, that deserves $2 million. Is that what happens? Funding just increases.
$5,000 for the first 4 episodes. And then
I think people just start looking for books and they're like, hey, this was a good book. Let's make this into a show.
Yeah, scripts. Hey, here's a script.
And then if like HBO or Hulu picks it up, they're like, okay, you can have $1 million.
What if the Nazis won?
Yeah. That's a really good idea. Oh, man. I liked it. I really did like it. It was a change of pace from what I would typically watch. Very political. In shows like this, I feel like I'm always left up to the creator's version of politics. So I'm always like left eerie of completely falling into the world because like, is it completely accurate to however it would have gone? But those are just semantics. I would give it a solid 6. It's very intriguing. I liked the set and setting and the general plot. I feel like I would have to see more to see if the execution was actually good or not.
Okay.
Because I feel like I'm in the middle of execution. I'm in the middle of like, oh shit, what else is going to happen? I feel like I'm in the middle of season 1.
You see, and that's why I think they split up the season. They were going with it and they're like, oh shit, we need to spread this out. And then they quickly altered some shit.
It doesn't feel like there's filler. It doesn't feel like there's filler yet. But I hope not.
I don't know.
I hope there's no filler, especially in a show like this where you feel like every detail matters. Go on. That's my number.
What's your rate?
6.
6? Okay. I think Jay's up.
Well, I think I agree with a lot of what the two of you just said. Where Adam actually, you just compared the show to Lost.
Yeah.
And I think I would put that in the same category, the show in the same category as shows like Lost or Westworld, where in my opinion, they're either really good bad shows or really bad good shows where there is so much potential in the concepts. Like that one sentence pitch of this show of what if the Nazis won and we had a Cold War between the Germans and the Japanese, making America the front lines of that battle. That sounds fascinating. but the execution of it, not so great. I think that the writing lost its way. I think that the most interesting characters on the show are the peripheral ones. Yeah. Like the most interesting characters to me were Keto and Smith. Because as we talked about before, they were kind of the villains, but not really, because they were kind of just part of a machine and trying to do what was right.
They were good at their job and they were following orders.
Yeah.
Right. But to use them as a further example, we were never given a clear understanding of where they fit in the chain of command. So is Smith the head of all of Nazi America? Is he just head of the SS? Is he just head of intelligence? What exactly is he?
He's head of the East Coast KGB, right? Because there's someone on the West Coast that is like KGB. And he is working for Heimlich or Himmler.
Sure, but is there then somebody who's just head of everything, not necessarily just Hitler. Intelligence?
Hitler.
Yeah, it's not really clear. But something else I love about this show is the visual style and showing us the fashion of what Nazi America would be. I really love the costumes in this show. Mm-hmm. And not to sound too pro-Nazi, but like the Nazi uniforms, like fashion-wise, they are slick.
Do you know who created the Nazi SS uniform?
Hugo Boss.
Hugo Boss, yeah. Saved him from bankruptcy.
Yeah, they manufactured them. Hugo Boss himself was a Nazi. So there's a lot of things I like about this show, but at the end of the day, it's just not a very good show. So I'm going to give it a 5.5.
Oh, I think. Can I say one thing?
Go ahead.
I think this show would have been a lot better if the American Revolution was a lot more threatening than it was. Because you added a third power to the mix, other than not Nazi.
Yeah, it's really like a 0.5 power.
Like if they became just a little bit more threatening, it would have been a triangle, and nobody can really move.
If they were like the Wolfenstein Resistance, that would be a lot better. I'm gonna go ahead and give you my rating. I think the show has a lot of potential. I like the story. I like the multi-layer and the meta of the alternate reality within an alternate reality. I'm going to give it a 7 because I feel like it could turn into something really good. But I will also say Philip K. Dick's a weirdo, and like he's really hit or miss, in my opinion.
Hit or miss, huh?
He just in general, because like I didn't care for Blade Runner, like the first one. I watched it and I was like, what the fuck was the big deal? I had no idea why this is a movie that everyone's always like raving about. And then like when the second one came out, everybody's like, oh, Blade Runner 2, oh my god, it's been so long. I just didn't even watch it. Like I didn't even go because I was like,
Oh, he wrote for Total Recall too. I didn't know that.
I love Total Recall. Like that one's fantastic. That's what I'm saying. So for me, it's hit or miss. This one is like an almost hit, and I feel like it makes me want to finish season 2 and 3.
Yeah, it makes me want to finish season 2 and 3, but I don't know if I can like stand it.
It depends if it speeds up some. Like it was really slow through season 1, and sure the climactic points were they were pretty enjoyable, but it took a while to get to those.
I just want to point out that Game of Thrones is fucking slow as shit every season for like
right now I can't.
Yeah, right up until it kicks off, and then you're like, holy shit!
That's like this 6 episodes every
on episode 5. Yeah,
because it's like la da 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 bam.
But
by the way, we reinvented seasons, and seasons only have 6 episodes now.
I don't know what you mean.
I mean, it changes per country. Like Japan has 12 and 24 as their arcs, and then we have
Game of Thrones
10 and 12.
It was like last season or the season before, they were just like, yeah, we're gonna have 5 episodes now. You're used to 13, 14. It's gonna be 5. We're gonna split it into 2 parts.
Whenever the Sopranos was ending, they did like a half season. Like it was like 9.5.
Yeah, season 7 only had 7 episodes.
Was that acceptable for The Sopranos?
I don't know. It's like season 9 ended, but they needed like 5 more episodes to tell the ending story, so they just like did a 0.5.
I'll say this: Game of Thrones season 8 is due to release this April.
Can we just find a show that was written and adapted per the writing? Like no filler, no cuts.
You want it like just completely like word for word, scene for scene.
Not word for word, scene for scene, but just like no bullshittery where they're like, "Hey, we need to make this last 2 more seasons." Like,
find the show.
Yeah, we need to find an expertly written show.
You're better off finding a movie, probably, and that would actually be pared down.
Well, I can give you an example. The Shining was actually made into a TV series to the specifications of Stephen King himself, and you can compare that against the Kubrick film,
which is completely different.
Yeah,
Kubrick made it his own.
I haven't seen either one, so I can't have
The Shining, the movie is phenomenal. It's worth watching, but you should watch
That's the one with the twins in the hallway, right?
Come play with us.
Yeah.
Come play with us. Yeah.
All right. Well, Aaron, let me just check real fast. Was your rating a 7?
Yeah.
All right. So with Adam at a 7.5, Eric at a 6, me at a 5.5, Aaron at a 7, we've got an overall rating of 6.5, which puts it pretty much squarely in the middle of shows.
Okay. I mean, it was a well-directed, high-quality show. It had its issues.
I mean, I ragged on it, but I watched season 2, so it hooked me.
It hooked him. How would you rate season 2 so far?
Season 2 I thought was better. I'd probably give season 2 a 6.5. It still suffers from the same problems, but it develops a lot more of the world, and you get to see more of what the Nazis are planning to do with the world under their control, and that part was fascinating.
Okay, very cool. Now,
like, for example, they had a plan to dam the mouth of the Mediterranean, then lower the water level in the current Mediterranean to create more land that would be farmable, then use that water to irrigate the Sahara, basically turning Africa into the world's breadbasket.
Whoa.
I mean, I think that's one of those things that once you actually start to think about how you would do that, it's not a viable option, but just these crazy ideas of how do we make the world better by like totally fucking it up. Like that's
how do we terraform and fuck up the world?
Yeah.
Let's just mess with some ecosystems.
Right.
The Sahara was once the greatest land for making bread. We will do it again.
Well, that's why we're in such an interesting situation in the information age where we know all these things are wrong, but how do you displace a whole people for that resource? And like, I think the answer is A, you don't, but B, somehow you have to assimilate these people into, like, what do you do if you find out that they are sitting on the Garden of Eden and the Fountain of Youth? Like, do you displace these people? Do you incorporate them into your society so that they appreciate the same thing that you do?
If it was the Fountain of Youth, I have no doubt that the American government would just like take those people, put them in boxes, and ship them off somewhere.
You're describing the plot of the film Star Trek Insurrection.
Oh my god,
that's exactly what happens in that movie. But I will tell you, in the first episode of season 2, they do reveal to you who the man in the high castle is.
Oh,
it's Hitler, right? I mean,
well, since it happens in the first episode, can you just go ahead and tell us?
I mean, do you want to know?
Spoiler alert at the end of the podcast. If you do not want to hear about season 2, get back
now. So you know the guy from Dodgeball who like always looks up the rules?
Yeah,
it's that guy.
Oh.
It's not Hitler.
What?
Okay.
It's Milton?
Yeah.
You can dodge ranch.
It's Milton from Office Space.
I love that guy.
Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge.
No, that's Rip Torn. That's not the right guy. I also
Wait,
love
Milton?
Milton? Yeah, from Office Space.
What?
Keepler.
Paradise Lost? What?
Not
He's
John
in
Milton. Not John Milton. Good reference.
Thank you.
Well, so for next month, we've already decided that
we're watching Happy.
We're going to watch Happy, a sci-fi series available on Netflix, centering around a disgraced cop who goes on an adventure.
And become insane.
We've already watched the first 3 episodes, me and Adam. Eric got through the first 2, and then 10 minutes into the third one fell asleep.
I watched 4, actually. It's pretty good.
Okay. How long do we want to set before our next podcast?
Well, since we're already at the end of this month, how about next week?
Yeah, I like to catch up. Like,
if everyone can watch through, we could do it next weekend.
I'm not going to be able to do next weekend. It's the Super Bowl.
How about that?
I guess I could do Monday. I could do Monday next week, but I think I'd struggle to watch the whole show by then.
It's not that long.
Let's just do the 10th, right? 10th of February. That gives us 2 full weeks to watch and finish the show. And we're still early into February, so we can decide on the next show.
Okay. Does anyone got any inklings for the next show?
What's that?
Does anyone have any inklings for the next show after Happy?
We should do a love story.
You want a love story?
I really want something funny.
He really wants something funny. Eric, do you have any funny suggestions? Hold on. Special mention while you're thinking. The Orville. I've been watching season 2 of the Orville, and number 1, they're continuing with tackling I guess society issues that we're dealing with right now, like with gender and all that shit. But they did a porn addiction episode where Bortus is addicted to porn on the holodeck.
Yes.
And it's there's this whole scene where he's surrounded by other was it Mocklins being rubbed down on the holodeck, and he gets caught, and it's got a porn virus that spreads to everything. It's so ridiculous, number 1. But number 2, they did it in a way that made it really funny and outrageous and deal with a real issue that people deal with, I guess, in modern society. So, and it's also kind of the question that people would ask, in Star Trek, do you think they use the holodeck for porn?
Are these the best shows? I really think that is one of the best type of shows, whereas it just looks at society in its current state and then places that society into an adventure, space travel.
I think that makes those kind of shows unique.
That's why I love Community. I love Community.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've also been watching the new Orville season, and it's been great. I 100% agree with all that.
I'd be fine with watching Orville as the next show.
Well, it's not all out. There's only 4 episodes.
Yeah, I know, but it will be by February 10th, right?
No, it probably won't be done until May.
Yeah, it's going to be spaced out.
Well, then, never mind. We can't do that.
Yeah, I was just kind of honorable mention. Anyways, back to Eric.
No, I didn't come up with anything. I was just thinking some sort of... It'd be cool if Max Payne was a TV show.
That would not be comedy. I feel like this is kind of Happy kind of is the Max Payne TV show.
Yeah, it is.
I kind of want to do Good Place, but I'm pretty sure we've all seen it.
Yeah, we will. We could just do that review right now.
It's really good. On Rotten Tomatoes, it's one of the only shows that has 100% rating.
Oh, wow.
On what?
Rotten Tomatoes.
For Happy or what?
Early season 3. Season 3 has 100% right now. Everyone loves it. It's one of those shows that has only gotten better. And season 1 was fantastic.
What about Father Ted?
I have no idea what that is.
Ooh, that's a callback.
That's a callback.
1995 to 1998.
Father Ted is the show by the guy who did IT Crowd. It's his first show.
I think Aaron might be the only one who's actually seen it, because I know I haven't.
I have watched it. It's in the same style as IT Crowd and Black Books. It's 3 ridiculous characters getting into zany antics.
I mean, I'm always down.
Anyways,
a Britcom? Are you kidding? I'm in.
We can talk. We can make suggestions. I will say I'm down for a Britcom, but I don't one that's super awkward, In-Betweeners. Oh, you know what? Do you think, Eric? Have you watched Peep Show?
Oh no.
That might be worth watching the first season of Peep Show, Jay.
Oh man, that's a sacred cow.
Are you think you think you're gonna give it a 10 already?
No, I'm just saying. You know how you never want to meet your heroes. But on the other hand, I think that show stands up to scrutiny. So we'll talk about it next month.
All right. Well, anyway, it's a great pod, guys. We got our score. See you next month.
Sex and the City for the next show.
No.
Not unanimous?
Unanimous.
Believe it or not, I just finished watching the entire series of Sex and the City.
Oh. I typed in best rom-coms for dudes.
No, I think there's value in hate watching something.
Because I'm going to watch all 7 seasons of it.
I had the most fun on this podcast ripping apart mixology.
Oh, really?
So I think if we all watched something we hated and then ripped on it, that might be a different angle to go from.
You definitely made Eric cry that night.
Let me ask you this: did y'all ever watch Teen Titans?
I don't want to actually hate loving to hate it.
I don't want to actually set myself up to hate something.
Well, they came out with a live-action show of Teen Titans.
Of what?
Of Teen Titans.
Oh,
with
really?
Robin and Beast Boy, Raven, and Starfire.
Yeah, I could hate that.
I want to like it because I really liked the animated series when I was a kid, but like it's DC, and so far there are very few DC shows that are actually worthwhile.
That would be kind of fun to rip on it. A Teen Titan remake, live action remake. That sounds terrible.
It sounds terrible.
All right, we'll vote on it next time. So
yeah. All right,
adios,
dudes.
Adios.